So we've just arrived at Concordia. We're surrounded by the Gasher Brims in the background there. It's Gasher Brim 4 all the way up to Broad Peak. But what's most important is it's our first view of KT. And that is the mountain we're off to climb. So we're about to walk up the valley to base camp. That summit is still 4 kilometers higher than us. But we're on our way up to base camp today and moving ever closer to the goal. So this is our camp for the night, below Broad Peak, and then there's Gasher Brims. Just thought to give you a quick view of the area. Nice evening, no or very light wind, and after a long day of trekking, nice to just get everything dried here. And there the train goes in the background as the sun's about to go behind that ridge.
It's very unique that we climb as a team, the same guys as a bunch of friends. So for us, we're lucky we've got the mates, we've got the banter in base camp, we've got at least the support of each other to keep ourselves motivated and pass the time.
What are you drinking here, John Black?
Johnny Walker Black.
Johnny Walker Black, eh? Look at that. We've got Alan.
Oh.
He's just... We haven't even cheersed and he's sculling that. He's a savage. We've got Robbie with his little bit, and then the Benson. And thanks, John Black, for supplying us.
Cheers. So we started as a team of 4. Unfortunately, Robbie got high altitude pulmonary edema early on in the expedition, had to get helicoptered out. And Alan, after making a rotation to Camp 1, digested and considered the mountain and decided not to climb any higher and to remain in base camp. Whilst it was very unfortunate and sad that Alan didn't climb any higher, it was still amazing to have him in base camp, and all respect to him for having the courage to make that decision and to be safe.
This is base camp, some of the Sherpa tents over there, Sherpa dining tent. There's our kitchen tent, one of the other teams we're sharing with. This is a bit of a beach chill area, obviously only when the weather's a little bit better. Pretty miserable today. Looking out over there, that's the shower tent, also too cold to shower at the moment. There's the puja area and some of the member sleeping tents. That was our dining tent. Quite a lot of snow around camp today. Quite pretty, looking up the valley towards K2.
So K2 was a mountain that I'd wanted to climb for as long as I can remember. My first book I bought on K2 when I was 17 years old, I still have it. And K2 for me was almost the culmination of mountaineering in my mind. It wasn't the highest, clearly Everest is higher. It wasn't the most technical, it wasn't the most dangerous, it wasn't the most snow or the most rock, it wasn't the most remote. But in my mind, it was the best combination of all of those factors.
K2's constantly trying to kill you. There's stuff coming at you the whole time, and probably the most common danger was rockfall and avalanche. In the beginning stages of the expedition, from on our rotations, acclimatization rotations up to Camp 1 and Camp 2, there was still a lot of snow on the face, on the slopes, so we had a lot of avalanche, and that probably not more than 10 minutes went by without an avalanche passing us, sometimes as close as 5-10 meters away.
You can see this big avalanche came down, looks like possibly yesterday, all the avalanche debris. So quite tense up here on the face, but at least the avalanche has already come down, hopefully it's stable now.
We tried to avoid avalanche zones as much as possible by climbing on the rocky ridges. The route is sort of trying to take the safest possible line, but even with that you are forced to cross avalanche zone, you're forced to cross rockfall.
There was some avalanche danger on the way up to Camp 1. We saw a number of avalanches, most of them sort of 50 meters or so away. Some of them came as close as 3 or 4 meters. Warren and I had rocks falling past us all of the time below Camp 3, and rockfall was certainly the biggest risk at that stage. And then you're also exposed to hypothermia, to exposure to the elements. And unfortunately we saw someone who passed away between Camp 2 and 3 from exposure and from the cold. And then on summit day, which is renowned to be particularly dangerous, you've got a very high risk of serac fall coming off the sort of main serac and falling on you going up the bottleneck or across the traverse. So the serac is essentially a massive ice cliff. It's probably in the region of 30 or 40 stories high and maybe 600 meters wide. And unfortunately, the only way up K2 is to climb up directly below that.
The avalanche coming down. It's like quite right at the end of it, but it started in that glacier over the rocks, like a waterfall.
You ever wonder how deep the crevasses are? You can't see the bottom. There comes John Black.
Across the depths, the abyss.
This is an avalanche debris. So you look in the bottom, there's some tents. There's a guy standing over there before the tent. And this is all avalanche since we came up a few hours ago. Just about to hit 6,000, and I think Camp 1 is just those rocks above me. Over about 30-40 meters to go. This is John coming up the last bit of the fixed lines. This is Camp 1, nestled gently onto the snow slope, and up there would be behind that black pyramid, Camp 2, about 3 hours away.
Camps are a real challenge. There's no camp, there's no ledge, there's no flat place. You're literally cutting a ledge into the side of the mountain, and you're trying to do that at 6,000, 7,000 meters in altitude, where you just don't have the physical ability to do it properly, or really the energy to cut a full-size tent platform. So you end up with half a tent pitched on the side of K2 from the bottom to the top. If you fall anywhere, you're falling all the way to the bottom. There's very little chance of you stopping on the way down. It's just that steep.
From the moment you leave advanced base camp, it's steep and it's uphill the whole way. So Camp 1 and Camp 2 in particular are very exposed to rockfall. And we actually had 2 tents destroyed in Camp 1 from a rockfall. So when we were in our tents, we would often still be hiding under our backpacks just in case there is any rockfall when you're in camp. Camp 3 was probably the safest of all the camps. And then Camp 4, you were prone to avalanche and serac fall higher up the mountain.
So I just wanted to welcome you to Camp 3, that's base camp, down in the valley, and then Concordia and Broad Peak, and this behind me is base camp. Sorry, Camp 3. That over there is Broad Peak, another 8,000er. We're at 8,000 meters now, so about the same height as it. And laid out there is the Karakoram mountain range. This is our high camp, Camp 4, at 8,000 meters. Like I said, not an easy place to be, but we're setting up. We'll leave at about midnight tonight, and we'll head all the way up underneath that serac, across into the summit.
We slept until it was time to leave for the summit, which we waited for the weather to be good. We had quite strong winds every evening after sunset. So as soon as the wind started to die down, I think we left for the summit at about 10 or 11 o'clock at night from Camp 4. So we spent a night in the death zone, but most of it was actually climbing toward the summit.
We're on the way up to the summit of K2. We've got about 150 vertical meters left. There's John in front of me, and you can see behind me a line of people still coming up. We can start seeing the sun rising to the east. It's going to be a good day.
So on summit day we had one particular moment that was definitely our closest call, and may it never be that close again.
It was still dark. We were still all climbing in headlamps, and there was a very slow climber ahead of me who was really struggling through the thick snow and very loose ice. And I'd recognized that the snow conditions were probably quite dangerous, and I was concerned about the security of our anchors. And I noticed that, as expected, the guys who had placed the anchors obviously recognized the poor snow conditions and had placed 2 anchors, one of which I saw blow out the snow and come loose, but I knew that something had to be done. And I was shouting down to Warren for him to try and communicate to those around him to take their weight off the rope. Otherwise, we were all going to fall off the mountain.
Just by the way he said to me, "Warren, this anchor's bad," I realized we got a big problem. Both of us had the idea that we need to get off this rope. or when you get this anchor sorted. Unfortunately, where I was, I couldn't do anything to help him. I unclipped from the fixed line, thinking at least if the rope goes, it was on my right in the rope. If it had gone, would have taken everyone with it, probably including John at that point, but would have swept over me. And the snow being as deep as it was, I felt I could maybe lie underneath it as it went.
I was able to shove the person above me, and he actually fell into the snow safely, and I was able to get to the anchor and place a temporary anchor, re-establish the anchor that had blown out, refix the primary anchor and secure the rope again to that, which meant that we had a relatively safe anchor again.
Coming back down there to pass those anchors again was a sobering reminder of what we'd experienced earlier.
Summit to K2, 5 o'clock in the morning, beautiful views. There's Warren Eva, my climbing partner in crime.
Are you guys on the summit to K2?
We're on the summit, bro. Now we're higher to climb.
Well done, boys.
Thanks to everyone for the support and encouragement. Oh, it's been a tough mountain. Hasn't let up for 1 second all the way to the summit, but amazing views from up here. And now it's a matter of getting down safely.
This is what it looks like from up on the top. We did it. First South African ascent. John and I just summited K2, and I think the obvious question is, what's next?